Good evening, everyone. Welcome and thank you for being here. My name is Jamie Gabert. I'm the administrator for the Village of Weston, and I'm glad to see a group of people here this evening. I just wanted to do some quick introductions with who's up here at the table, and then just talk a little bit about the agenda for tonight. We do have a presentation prepared. It's about 25 minutes. We just would like the opportunity to go through the entire presentation and have questions at the end. The presentation is being recorded. It will be replayed back on YouTube, and there'll be a link available through the Village website. We will also record and replay the questions, because if someone has a question, it's likely somebody else within the Village also has that same question. We would ask when we get to the Q&A portion that you would come up to the podium here and just state your name and address. When we are completed with the Q&A in this room, then I will ask those that are on Zoom. I see that Matt just asked that question. Then we will ask those that are on Zoom if there are any questions, and they can state their questions, just so we're not interrupting each other in between that time. So this evening, again, Jamie, the village administrator, Jessica Troutman is our finance director. We have Callie Gordon-Hazley. She is with SAFER, and she's the EMS division coordinator. Eric Lang is the chief deputy and deputy chief, and Josh is the chief for SAFER, the fire chief and EMS chief for SAFER. On the other side of the room is our board of trustees. I don't know if you guys just want to say your names quick.
Jordan, Mark Maloney,
Hushain Zagami,
Luis Lopstra.
So following tonight and the presentation, there's no action this evening on the item. Just again, want to give out the information and collect feedback. This will come back to the Board of Trustees they always meet on the third Monday of every month at 6 o'clock, again in this room. So that would be August 18th would be that next meeting where this would be back on the agenda. That would be another opportunity to provide feedback to the Board of Trustees. It's a 7-member board. Right now we have 6 because we have a vacancy. And so there are additional members that aren't here tonight, but again, they will be able to see the presentation and the questions from the recording. Tonight, if you have a question or let's say you have a comment and someone else has already shared very similar feelings to yours, but you just want to make sure that you are heard on the record, please feel to stand up, come up to the podium, state your name and address, and just say, I agree with the previous speaker, or I agree with the past speaker, just to make sure that the trustees are hearing that comment is heard and that you agree with that prior speaker, okay? So for first tonight, we'll hand it over to Chief Finke, and he will start our presentation.
All right, thanks for coming. Like Jamie said, my name is Josh Finke. I may defer some questions later on to both Eric and Callie if it pertains to their knowledge a little bit more. Otherwise, I'll answer any questions you have in regards to the fire department. But we'll start going through some of our presentation here. Jamie, if you want to jump to the next slide.
Computer is just, there we go.
All right, so what is a fire fee? So there's been a lot of questions around what this actually is. So fire fees are common, or I should say becoming more common, especially in the southeastern part of the state, where departments have ran referendums that have failed, and then they have chosen to use a fire fee, or they have just used a fire fee to augment their fire services. Fire fees cannot be used to fund EMS services, okay? And this is all per state statute. This isn't stuff that we make up or that any other municipality makes up. This is from Wisconsin state statute. So these fees can only be used to fund fire and rescue services, meaning that when I do our budget, we have a budget that separates out what it costs to run the fire department side of our district and what it costs to run the EMS portion of our district. Unlike taxes, fire fees pertain to all structures in the village. Okay, so right now, churches, certain medical facilities, other nonprofits are tax exempt, right? This building is tax exempt. With a fire fee, those buildings all pay the fee. So they will pay in for that portion as well. So that's different than a typical tax. Fire fees are typically based upon square footage of the building. So the bigger your building is, the more you're going to pay. However, as Jessica may explain a little bit later, there are breakdowns in the current proposal that we have that if you have a very large structure, like say tens or hundreds of thousands of square feet, then the modifier, the rate goes down so that building isn't so expensive. But obviously the bigger a building is, the more potential fire load it could have, the more money it costs. And fire fees can be adjusted on an annual basis, which we'll get into a little bit more later on. So how do we currently operate? I'm thinking a lot of you probably don't actually know how the fire district operates. So I just want to take a minute and talk about that. So we have two stations, one here in the village of Weston on Mesker Street, and one on Hummingbird Road in the village of Rib Mountain. Both of those stations are staffed 24/7, 365. We operate at a paramedic level EMS service. We have one ambulance that is staffed at each station. The station here in Weston has one piece of fire apparatus staffed with one to two firefighters on that piece of apparatus, depending on staffing for that day. The village of Rib Mountain has no fire staffing. So if the ambulance is in-house and a fire call comes in, then the people will jump off of the ambulance, they'll jump on the fire truck and take the fire call. If they're out on an ambulance call, which is about probably an average of 5 to 6 hours a day, it can be more, can be less. If they're on an ambulance call and a fire call comes into the village of Rib Mountain, they're waiting for fire apparatus to respond all the way from the village of Weston. Other than that, we have a ladder truck and a tender that currently have no staffing. So we do our best to try to staff those. During the day, we have admin staff in the building, myself and Eric and Callie. So if we have a fire, Monday through Friday, kind of basic office hours, then we will, the other day we had a fire alarm where it sounded like there may have been need for a ladder truck. So Eric and I jumped to the ladder truck and got it there in case the crews needed it. But otherwise, those vehicles are not staffed. So how is the district funded? So we have three factors. This funding formula has not changed since the district started in 2014. And those factors are equalized value, population, and inspectable structures. Okay, so at about this time of each year, I plug all those numbers into what I effectively call the magic calculator, and it spits out the formula that each municipality has to pay the following year. So I plug all those numbers in, I get them like the equalized value comes from the Department of Revenue, inspectable property come from our fire marshal, and then population comes from the US Census data. Okay, so I plug all of that in, and typically those numbers shake out where Weston pays about 66% and Rib Mountain pays about 33%, but they do vary back and forth, maybe 2% a year. Some years, one goes up and one goes down. It will go back and forth a little bit, but it's typically pretty close to that 66-33 range. Our firefighters work a 48-96 schedule, so they work 2 days on and then they get 4 days off. Okay, that's just how their rotation continues. And just kind of a real short overview of how their day goes. They come in for work at 8 o'clock in the morning. Their morning hours on their first day of work are pretty much filled with station cleaning and checking trucks. Okay, the trucks get checked every other day, basically. And then, they check water levels. They check to make sure all the equipment's ready to go. They check all their EMS equipment to make sure they have everything they need. We have other things like some of our medications have to be checked according to the DEA. There's a very specific procedure that's done with those. Between noon and 1, they eat lunch. From 1 to 4 p.m., they train every day, except Sundays, training is optional. And then after 4 p.m., they will complete run reports for the day, work on some special projects, eat dinner, stuff like that. And then usually, if they're not out on calls, they go to bed about 10 o'clock at night and then obviously run calls throughout the night. I will tell you that is extremely rare that you sleep through the night. I would say past extremely rare, it's basically non-existent at this point. Second day, they do very similar things, except their morning hours are a little bit more lax, I would say, in that they'll work out. Some guys will work out. Some guys are still working on reports. They do special projects. They'll catch up on some cleaning. And really some of that kind of depends how day one went. If their first day was very busy, they're going to be busy trying to catch up on a lot of stuff they didn't get done day one. Okay. And then along all of that, they have public education events, like October is Fire Prevention Month. So we are full of public education events during the month of October. We do a lot of things with DC Everest School. We do a lot of things with Boy Scout groups and all those types of things. Callie teaches a lot of CPR classes. There's a lot of other ancillary duties that we do. All right, so just a little bit of next couple slides here are some of our run data. So this is the number of structure fires that we get each year, okay? So when I say structure fire, this is any fire that we have in a structure, from a full-blown house or commercial building fire down to something that's more like what we call a room and contents fire. So a mattress started on fire and we get there, put the fire out, and we're done, right? Any fire that's in a structure. So this kind of tells you where our numbers shake out each year for the past 5 years. 2025 data is through the end of July. So as you can see, we're on pace for 40 some structure fires in 2025. So that, as you can see, is on a little bit of an upward trajectory. I know that there's a little bit of a misconception that in a lot of fire departments, their fires are going down, but our fire numbers are actually climbing a little bit. This is 911 EMS calls. Okay, so this is, again, our trajectory has been going up. You can kind of see our run volume. We hang between kind of 2,500 and 3,000 EMS calls annually. Our overall call volume is close to 4,000 a year, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. And then one of the other things we do is we do what's called interfacility transports, which is the next slide here. So basically what these are is we perform transports that go from one hospital to another hospital. Okay, so if there is a patient in, let's say, Eagle River that's having a heart attack, Eagle River Hospital does not offer services to treat that patient. They will typically be brought down to either the hospital here in Weston or to Aspirus in Wausau, okay? And when that happens, typically they'll call either the Aspirus system or the Marshall Clinic system to transport that patient. They have some fairly significant staff shortages as well. If they don't have ambulances available, they call us to do their backup work, basically. And we do a fair amount of it. And we will do any transfer that starts or ends in the state of Wisconsin. That's per our licensing. We have to either start or end in the state of Wisconsin. As you can see, those numbers have gone down. Not because we're getting less requests, we're getting just as many, if not more, to be honest with you. It's kind of a twofold thing. The biggest issue is really around a couple people. We had one individual in particular that did a ton of these. He was retired. It was kind of his retirement gig. And when we have these, we don't handle them with, for the most part, we don't handle them with our staff on duty because we don't have enough people on duty. We call in off-duty staff. And we had one individual that, again, was retired, and he took, honestly, probably 80% of the time we sent out a message that said we had one, he would come in and do it. He retired a couple of years ago. That definitely put a big hit on our ability to get transfers out. We had a couple other people that moved out of the area. They got a job offer for significantly more money than we were able to pay them. So they moved out of the area, and those 3 people definitely hurt our ability to get transfers out. The reason we like these is we make money, okay? What's that? Oh, I thought somebody said something. Transfers make us money, okay? So we help offset how much money gets passed on to the taxpayer by how much money we can bring in. We have tried very hard to try to find ways to work through this over the past couple of years. The board gave us permission to try to hire some people on a part-time basis that would come in and just perform interfacility transports. We've put those jobs out for probably the last 3 months, I would say. And we had one applicant, and then right before we were going to interview that applicant, they took a full-time job somewhere else for, again, more money. So we haven't been able to fill those positions. We do our best with the couple people we have that have these on-call positions right now, but I would say that probably 80% of the requests we send out for people to come in for interfacilities don't get answered. We turn down a ton of these. So again, our overall call volume is approximately 4,000. I know if you add up those last 3 numbers we had on there, that isn't going to equal 4,000. But there are a lot of things that, those are kind of our big things that we do. There are a lot of things that aren't included on there. Fire alarms, we run fire alarms very frequently, motor vehicle crashes, hazmat incidents, technical rescue, which we actually do a few of every year. We have the rock quarry in Rib Mountain, so our crews do high angle rescue. We have people that do swift water rescue. We do confined space. We're the confined space team for both businesses here in the village of Weston and for the Metro Sewage Department in Rib Mountain. We are their committed confined space team, so when they go into a hole, they have to put us on standby. So we do a lot of other things as opposed to just fire and EMS. So what will the fee be used for? Really 2 big things. To continue funding our current operations, number 1, we are probably going to face a budget shortfall moving into 2026, even without hiring additional staff. And the other part is we're working on hiring an additional 9 firefighters. Okay, and when we hire an additional 9, we have 3 shifts, okay? So when we hire 9, that really means 3 per day. Okay, so I know 9 sounds like a big number, but it's only 3 people per day. And that gives us the ability to put another piece of fire apparatus on the road. Okay, that's what we're really trying to do. So our 2025 operating budget was just under 3.7 million. The 2025 tax levy was 1.954. So the difference between the 3,662,000 and the 1,954,000, that number that's in between there is money that we make. Okay, so we make money through our EMS calls. You know, we have a billing company, we charge insurance companies, we charge the patient, whatever it may be. We have a process like basically every fire department does. And we bring in a fair amount of revenue, about $1.4 million through EMS billing every year. Okay, the other money we bring in, we do some rescue billing, very minimal, a few $1,000s a year. And then we have contracts with multiple different agencies or multiple different communities around the town of Stettin, town of Gunther, Easton, Ringgold, Stettin, and Marathon, all contract with us for fire and or EMS services. Okay, and then they pay us to provide that service to them. In 2026, we're going to have an increase. I have approximately 100,000. It's probably going to be a little bit over that. We'll have an increase of at least $100,000 if we do nothing different. Okay. And that is for basically 2 reasons. That's wage increases, number 1, and that's health insurance cost increases. 2 things that I really have no control over. Okay. I can't control what our health insurance does. We just met about that today, actually. And we're going to look at different things. Last year, we had a very large health insurance increase as well. I'm sure for anybody that's a business owner, you may be going through some of those things. And then the other thing is our wage increases. So that will be about $100,000, again, to just stay status quo moving forward. And like I said, you're fine. On the bottom of that, there's a lot of unknowns. You know, health insurance, vehicle insurance, work comp. We do have a very good work comp modifier, knock on wood. We have very few injuries. We have a pretty healthy department. We do a lot of preventative stuff. We have a safety officer that works on those things. So, and then we have other services that, for example, one of our companies that provides service to us, they have a mandatory minimum price increase of 6% every October. Okay, so it's guaranteed every year their prices go up 6%. And we spend about $50,000 to $60,000 with them every year. So every year it's 6% more minimum. Okay, now I'm ready. All right, so some comparables. So I picked several departments around us and kind of compared how we look to them. And I'm not going to read, everybody can kind of understand or see what that means. But the departments that we kind of compare ourselves to frequently are really, you know, like Stevens Point and Marshfield. And if you look at Marshfield, our run volume is almost identical. Okay, so we're responding to nearly the same amount of calls. We have a higher population than they do, but their budget's about $2 million a year more than ours. Okay, so we're doing the same thing they are with $2 million less dollars. If you start to look at Stevens Point, again, a fairly similar population, but their budget is more than double, or it's about double, I should say. So you can kind of see how the numbers start to shake out. And then I have some graphs coming up here that are going to show this broken down a little bit even more. So taking these communities, what I did is I broke it down on how much it costs to run each call for these communities and how much it costs per resident. Okay. So cost per call, if you think of this from a business standpoint, if business A is making this gavel and they can, you know, do it for $6, how much in business B can do it for $4? Okay, it's kind of the same thing. We're putting a truck on the road, and how much does it cost us versus the neighboring department to put that truck on the road, right? And then cost per resident, basically all that is I take our total budget and then divide it by the population that we cover. Okay, that's really all that is. So if you look at cost per call, you can kind of see everybody laid out here. We are the cheapest. When you break it down per call, it costs us just over $1,000 to run each call. Okay. And then if you break it down per resident, we are significantly the cheapest, to the tune of close to half of some of the costs of the other departments in the region. So it costs us about $159 per person that lives in our primary response area. So the other part that plays in this is we have applied for a federal grant. The grant is called the SAFER grant, not to get it confused with our name. But it's a federal grant that is given out basically annually. This year it was delayed a little bit. There was some stuff going on within FEMA, a lot of political stuff going on there. So it was delayed. So the timing has been off on it a little bit. But we did apply for that, back in late June. It was due the 4th or 5th of July. Our application went in the end of June. So this is a 3-year funding program where the federal government helps pay for additional firefighters to bring staffing up in communities all over the country, okay? The city of Wausau obtained one of these grants about 3 years ago. I think they're on their 3rd year of theirs. So this is to help, again, help us hire those 9 people that we were talking about. And so what happens is that for the first year, and for us it would be 2026, is the federal government will pay 65% of the wages and benefits of those 9 firefighters, okay? Year 2, they'll do the same. In year 3, they'll pay 35%, and then year 4, we're on our own. The municipalities have to pay for 100% of them. The idea behind this is it's not a big 1-year shock to the residents, right? We can ramp up as the years go on. And again, that funding would start in 2026. So why do we need 9 more firefighters? We talked about this a little bit already. We're significantly understaffed for a department our size. So again, some of the departments we spoke about earlier, you know, the city of Marshfield, for example, Eric, jump in here if I'm wrong, but I believe their current staffing is 12 firefighters. Ours is 7. I think Stevens Point has 15. Wausau, I believe, is at 22. Merrill is at 6. And I forget who else they had up on that list. I think that may have been Riverside. Riverside, and I believe they staff 4 per day, if I'm correct. So again, Marshfield is who we compare ourselves to a lot, again, because call volume is almost identical. So they have 5 more people on each day than we do. So again, understaffed. Our response, one of the things I look at is our response times continue to increase. Okay, so one of the things that we're doing routinely is, again, we have 1 ambulance at each station. Okay, so the ambulance here in Weston goes on a call. There's a second call in Weston. The ambulance from Rim Mountain has to come over here. Okay, and then what will even happen on top of that is then this ambulance is over here, and the ambulance that is normally over here goes back into service, so they're back at this station. Well, then a call comes out in Rib Mountain. Well, that ambulance is gone, so this one's got to drive over there, and they end up chasing each other all day long. Okay, and that happens routinely, much more often than you would think. And not only do we have 2 ambulances out frequently, but there are many times where we have a 3rd or even 4th ambulance call when our ambulances are out, and then we have to rely on our neighbors. Okay, when I started here about 8 years ago, we would call mutual aid probably 10, 15, maybe 20 times a year. The last 2 to 3 years, and this year we're well over 100 times a year that we can't cover our own calls. Okay, it's becoming very frequent. Firefighter burnout, that's a nationwide issue, just because call volume is up everywhere. We have a very low turnover rate, thankfully, of our full-time staff. But when we do have people leave, we do exit interviews. And over the last 5 years, every single firefighter that's left, one of the reasons they stated for leaving was staffing issues. We don't have enough people. So they never get a chance to, a lot of fire departments will rotate on the ambulance and then onto the engine. You go back and forth so you get a little bit of a break. We don't have that opportunity. When our people come in and they get put on the ambulance, they're there for that entire 48-hour shift. It doesn't matter if they get to sleep or not. We have a lack of staff on scene. Again, if it's very frequently, we run, 8 to 10 ambulance calls a day. Some days are much more, some days are less, obviously. It's an average. But it's extremely likely that we have at least 1 ambulance out when a fire call comes in. So if we're at minimum staffing for that day, which is 6, and there's an ambulance out and we get a fire call, that means we're going to that fire with 4 people, okay? 1 person, some of this is per state statute, it's SPS 330. 1 person has to be an incident commander. We have to have a motor pump operator. So that really only leaves 2 people, okay, to try to fight fire, rescue people, connect to hydrants, lay hose lines, all those types of things, okay? It's pretty difficult. We have worked on auto aid agreements. We have an auto aid agreement with Riverside Fire District. We have an auto aid agreement with the city of Wausau. So those are good things. The only thing that's a little bit negative about them, especially in the city of Wausau, they obviously have more fires than we do. So we send an ambulance to Wausau for every fire they have. So we send an ambulance into the city fairly often to go stand by at their fires. So then that takes an ambulance out of service for us, but you got to kind of weigh how they're able to help us on the backside as well. The other thing is a decrease in our ISO rating. So ISO rating is the Insurance Service Office, and they rate each fire department on a 1 to 10 scale. Okay, and it's like a golf score. 1's good, 10's bad. There are very few ISO 1 departments. You know, City of Madison is an ISO 1. I think there's only 3 or 4 in the state. Usually larger metropolitan areas become an ISO 1. It's fairly common for communities our size to be ISO 2 and 3. Okay, right now we're a 4. In the hydrant area, if you live outside of our hydrant area, you have an ISO rating of an 8, which is not good. Okay. And the reason for that is we were recently decreased in score because we cut staffing. We have less firefighters on scene, and we had to sell a truck because we couldn't staff it. So when they came and did our eval about 18 months ago, I would say, they came back. We were really hopeful we were going to stay at a 3, so you get a split rating in your hydrant area and outside of your hydrant area. We were hoping we were going to stay at a 3 and a 6. Unfortunately, we went to a 4 and an 8. And the 2 big things were that you get what's called water haul credit, meaning how much water can you haul, right? So we took a big hit on that, and we took a big hit for lack of firefighters on scene. Okay, so the problem we're running into now, which we knew was going to happen, is I just had somebody in the fire station yesterday from the village of Red Mountain that their insurance bill, they live outside of the hydrant area. Their insurance bill went from $530 some a year to $1,160 some a year because their ISO rating went from a 5 to an 8. So that is an obvious issue, and more people are unfortunately probably going to start to see that as insurance companies start to kind of reevaluate and renew policies and things like that. Again, we talked about significant increases in mutual aid, firefighter safety. When there's more firefighter injury, more firefighter fatality when there's less firefighters on scene, because we have a goal in mind when we get on scene, and if there's not enough people there to do the job, firefighters inherently take unnecessary risks to do their job. Okay, it's a fact, it's a statistic, it's been proven for many years. Firefighters do stupid things when they don't have enough people there because they have a job at hand and they try to do it. And complexity of calls. Our job, I've been doing this for 25 years this month, and the job has changed dramatically in 25 years. Okay, construction is significantly different. We have this whole lithium ion battery thing to deal with now, which is a whole animal in itself. Buildings are getting bigger. Buildings are being built lighter. You know, lightweight construction is a big thing now. And then from an EMS standpoint of it, we have active threat calls, right? These active shooter thing 20 years ago, you've never heard of, okay? And now it unfortunately has become commonplace, and we talk about it. It's unfortunate we have to say this, but we talk about it. It's probably not if, it's a matter of when, right? We cover a huge school district. We have a large industrial park. In the village of Mountain, we have multiple large shopping complexes. So those are things that we work with the Sheriff's Department for. We work with Mountain Bay PD to coordinate. But I mean, again, very limited staffing for that. All right, some other facts, just some things that I've heard that I wanted to kind of clear up. So the district does not get a 5% fee that's on a water utility bill. Okay, the only funding that comes to us is through tax levy, or the only funding that comes to us through municipalities is through tax levy currently. Other fees that we get. We have staff stations, like I said, both in Weston and in Red Mountain. We do not charge for responses to fire alarms. Okay, so if you have a fire at your home or your business, you do not get a bill from us. If we send an ambulance to your house, your insurance company or you will get a bill. But if you have a fire in your house, you do not get a bill from us. Again, I talked about EMS calls. We write off about 50% of our EMS calls are written off as bad debt every year. If we could collect 80% of what we bill out on EMS calls, we could probably operate for basically no cost to the taxpayer. Nobody does that. I mean, Medicare and Medicaid have mandatory legal write-offs that when we send our bill to the billing company, like Medicare gets to tell you how much they will pay. We don't get to ask them, they tell you. Okay, so it's called a mandatory write-off. The fire fee is called a fee because that's what it's called in state statute. Okay, you can think of it as a tax. I totally get that, but we refer to it as a fee because in Wisconsin state statute, it's referred to as a fire fee. We do provide fire and EMS, like I said earlier, to several surrounding communities. We did increase their rates last year because we had a budget increase last year as well. And to help offset that and to help lessen the blow to both the Village of Weston and Rib Mountain, those communities got a 9% increase in their fire contracts last year. Okay, so we have worked on those contracts as well. And this is Jessica or Jamie's portion.
So I was just gonna reemphasize the water, the fee that a lot of you see on your utility bill. It's called the Public Fire Protection Fee. That fee is determined by the PSC, which is the Public Service Commission of the state of Wisconsin. And then I have a little on the screen. It talks about what the public fire protection is. It covers the cost of the utility system to provide the high flow and pressure needed to fight fires. So it goes on to say that if there was no need to fight fires, the infrastructure for the water utility would be a lot less. This is not a fee that the village or SAFER can determine. This is determined by the by the PSC. So the water utility of the Village of Weston is regulated by the state, and the PSC is the arm that does regulate us.
This one is mine. So are there other ways to do this? And quite honestly, those other ways have been worked on for the past several years. We have budget issues every year, and we've done many creative things to get through all of those years. And I think we've reached the point of where we can't do any of those things anymore, and that's why we're here. So one of the things that our board, and Mr. Maloney's on our board, one of the things our board, both from the Village of Weston and the Village of Rib Mountain, has asked us to do since I've been here is find ways to bring in more revenue. Because again, the more revenue we can bring in, the less we have to put on the tax levy, right? So one of the things we did was to open a part-time training center, an EMS training center, so we can teach EMS classes, EMT basic, first responder, we can do refreshers, all those types of things. And that was a twofold benefit to us. We can save money by not having to pay for that education through the tech college. And then for students that came in from outside of our district, we charge them, and that's revenue coming in. Okay, that was discontinued several years ago. We talked about the interfacility transports already, but again, that's an effort to try to bring in more revenue. We do EMS standby events for auto races. We did. State Park Speedway is obviously closed. But we do some other random things throughout the year when people ask for us. We just did a dental clinic that we did a standby on that brought in a little bit of revenue. The big ones for us is we do the music standbys out in Cadott, Country Fest or Hoofbeat now, Rock Fest, and Force Fields. They had a new one this year. So our crews go out and they will stay out at the fest grounds there for 3 to 4 days straight and provide EMS for that large event. And then we bill that event coordinator. One of the things we tried to do, we unfortunately had a house in the Village of Rib Mountain that burned to the ground. They were 1 mile from our fire station. We had the ambulance crew. In fact, I believe it was Captain Lohman was working that night. The ambulance crew was on a call, on an EMS call. So they were out of the station there at Rib Mountain. We also had a multi-vehicle motor vehicle crash in front of Bricks here in the Village of Weston. So that took our other ambulance, our rescue truck and mutual aid ambulances from both Riverside and Wausau were in town already. And then we had a house fire. It was at night. Both myself and DC Lang were home. We both immediately knew that there was nobody available to respond. We both left and responded as quickly as we could. Long story short, the first arriving engine on that scene was Riverside because our crews were busy. It took 23 minutes and about a $700,000 house burned to the ground. So embarrassing for me, extremely frustrating for me. So after that, one of the things we tried to do is, let's try to get some part-time guys, some paid-on-call guys that just want to be firefighters. They'll come in when we have calls like that to augment our other staff. So we did that. We did a fairly aggressive recruitment, I would say. Both communities on their social media here in the building posted things. We put some stuff out in the news, I believe. We did a lot of stuff on our social media. We put things out through fire departments in the area through what we have as a MABUS group, it's called. We sent a lot of stuff out. In the end, we had 11 applicants, correct? Yes. We had 11 applicants. We go through a hiring process. They have to go through a physical. They go through a psychological evaluation. And then they have to go through onboarding. When we got done with all of that, we're down to 1. We lost 10 of the 11 people because they were not able to make the commitment or they were not able to pass some of the exams that were involved. That one individual is a Village of Weston board member that has fire training and wants to help. And he's actually not here tonight because he's at training. So that is something we try to do to, again, help our staffing issue. Can we cut staff? Well, we're short staff already, so that's not a good example, but we've already done that the last 2 years. Last year we have both full-time and part-time people. Okay, so every day we have a mix of people, and we have one part-time position. Well, that position last year got cut because, again, we had a budget shortfall. Part of the way through this year, we're able to bring that position back half the day at least. So we bring that back during our busy time of the day, but we couldn't afford to bring them back for 24 hours. And then previous year, Callie's position used to be a full-time position. That position was cut to part-time, so it's 1 day less of pay, and then no longer eligible for health insurance. Those were things that were taken away in order to try to help the budget. So we have done a lot of things over the last several years to try to make this work. This is not something that is out of the blue. Now we're back to it.
So we do read Facebook comments. So I wanted to address some of the comments that are out there. One thing, what happened with the reassessment? People's taxes went up. Some people's did, their values went up. We collected some more taxes, but we didn't collect that much. So this one right here is a prime example. Hinner Springs, this person on Hinner Springs experienced a decrease of $300 from previous year. Their assessed value increased 41%. Next one. This one's on Fuller. This one had an increase of $601. Assessed value was 72.8%. And then the final one. This is commercial. This is Target. We all go there. They had a decrease of $64,188. Their assessed value decreased 14.1%. And in 23, they paid an additional $18,000 for personal property tax. And in 2024, the state eliminated personal property tax, so they don't have to pay that now either. And where did these assessed values come from? So our assessor has to follow the state statutes on how he does the assessment. The state of Wisconsin said your values of commercial property in the Village of Weston decreased, and your residential house sales, they're out of this world. So that's where the assessor had to go follow his checklist, and he assessed everyone's property. The change in your assessed value, whether you went up a lot or a little, depended upon, that was how your tax increase was determined. So in the end, we didn't get that much more money. Go back to the next page. This is our tax system. The Village of Weston increased their operating levy $42,341. What you didn't see before is your debt service levy. The village has debt service. We borrowed for this building. We also borrow for a ton of road projects. The debt service levy increased to $192,000. So those are the increases that we received as a village. You can see on the top, there's our revenue increases for 2025. We had a budget revenue increase of $227,000, which matches the expenditures of $227,000. You can see the different areas that experienced increases. Our general government went down 43,000. Public safety went up 213, and then public works 14,000, and so forth. There was a nice breakdown of the changes that equal the 227. And in addition to that, in 2025, the Village of Weston and Safer both had to absorb a 24%.
Hates Michelle Obama. Can you believe that? Like Michelle Obama, why are you so like he's why are you saying this?
Levy limit increases. So I was talking before about the state statutes.
If you want to make it healthy,
so the state determines our levy increases by our net new construction. So the net new construction, you can see in 2025 was 1.665, which allowed for a levy increase of 93,844. Next year, we're looking at 131,000 allowable levy increase. So if you go back up to where we budgeted last year, our total increase was 227,000. That's not even what SAFER is asking for. SAFER is asking for an additional $300,000. We can't cover $300,000 with our regular revenue streams. That's one reason why we're looking for a fire fee.
And then also, that's only SAFER. That doesn't cover Mountain Bay Metro, who are under contract with or running elections or ensuring all of the utility has clean, safe drinking water, and that the stormwater goes to the right places. I mean, there's other expenses that are within that. And I think the other piece that I just want to mention with the assessment is we understand that there was a certain subset of house, particularly if you had a ranch that was built between the 70s and the 2000s that had a higher hit. And that is really because of the market. Those homes are selling for a lot. I mean, I think about what I paid for my first home. You might think about what you paid for your first home and what those homes are selling for now. We can't control that piece, but that's what their value is. That's what their worth is now if you would go to sell. I understand people might not be in the position where they're looking to sell now, but that's how those numbers get derived, because that's how the state has set up that formula in order to divide the tax base. That's not unique to our municipality. I think that was a hard hit area sort of across the state, but I think you also see that in the values when they're reselling, that they're more than a lot of people thought that they would maybe ever get to. So. And then the last one is Jess again.
So how much is $50 a year? So that's kind of where we're looking at for our initial fire fee. 9 visits to your favorite coffee house, Friday night fish fry, or I also have a house insured for $350. Your replacement is $500,000. So that would end up with a cost, additional uninsured cost of $175,000. It's just an example out there. I know I just bought a house. I'm insured for what I paid for my house. If it doesn't go up in the next 10 years, I'm not gonna be able to replace my house. I mean, it's just the way the house costs are these days.
So this is me, and Jessica just kind of talked about this, but again, how much is it gonna cost you? In 2026, the numbers we're currently looking at, again, this has to be approved by the board. There's formulas in motion and things like that, so nothing is completely set in stone yet, but the vast majority of homeowners in the village of Weston are gonna see between $40 and $60 a year. And I know the question will come up, is that gonna go up? Potentially. I mean, if you look at the grant, okay, again, it's 65, 65, 35, right? So the year where the two villages have to start paying the 65%, there probably will be an increase, right? We're gonna need more money, there probably will be an increase. And the year after that, where it goes to where the villages have to pay 100%, then yes, there probably will be an increase again. Are those gonna be 50 or 80% increases? No. I know there's TIF districts and moving pieces like that that'll help bring more money into the tax roll, and there's a lot of moving pieces. So for me to put how much will this cost me in 2029, for me to tell you what that number is, it's impossible for me to say that. There's no municipality or no fire department that can tell you exactly what their budget's gonna be 4 or 5 years from now. So is it gonna be more? Potentially, but is it gonna double or triple? I would say that's extremely unlikely.
So we're gonna open it up for questions. You guys have been so great to hear all of this information, and we were very excited to share it. I mean, we're government geeks, right? Like we like being in public service, and we like being a part of the community. I myself am a village resident, and so this fee will also, you know, impact myself as a village resident. But I'm super proud to live here because people show up and want to be involved and want to know what's going on. So I just really appreciate that you guys came out tonight and want to be a part of this. I think the one point that we didn't hit on before we open it up is that we also will take an adjustment in our levy if this goes into place. So it's not like the levy that was still associated with the fire stays. we have to take an adjustment, again, based on a formula, lessen that levy because we're putting the fee into place. Will that transfer one-to-one off tax bills? That I can't say. It will depend if you made an improvement in your home this past year. It will depend on what the other taxing entities do, the school district, the state, the tech college. But we do have to make that adjustment in order to put the fee into place. So again, just as a reminder, we welcome comments and questions. We would ask that you come up to the front, that you would state your name and address, and we'll do those that are here in person first, and then we'll open it up to those that are on Zoom. So if you're on Zoom and you have a comment or a question, just give us a minute to get through those within the crowd, and then we'll go to online.
Thank you. I know.
Can you go first?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'm John Allman. I live at 1506 Haley Avenue. I've been in township 3 years now, but before that I lived in North Carolina, South Carolina for 6 years. And down there, just thinking outside the box, down there, they have private EMS ambulances. And I asked them why. They said they did that 15 years ago to cut their cost. So I'm just thinking something out of the box. Anybody look at that, maybe for the day shift or night shift, having a private ambulance take care of just calls.
The issue with that, like I said earlier, is the ambulance brings money in. So if we did that, that would drive our costs up
but
more.
Then it opens up people to work on the fire side. You don't have to hire as many. Just a thought out of the box, just because I've talked to them down there and everybody down there, there's probably, I was in a town of 8,000 people. They had 4 private services that were in town.
Yeah, the only private services in Wisconsin are in the Milwaukee and Madison areas.
It's time to look into starting one. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yep.
Because it's gonna keep going up. And you gotta think outside the box, otherwise we're never gonna.
The private services do require the municipalities to pay them as well, just so you're aware of that.
Well, down there they save money, they said, so I don't know why it would cost more up here.
Thank you. Fred, do you want to come up to the podium?
Fred Schuster, 3210 Eau Claire Avenue, Weston. You may have already answered this, but I have a little bit of a hearing problem, so I'm going to ask this. Let's say the grant went through, and you're talking about a fire fee, which is kind of separate, isn't it? Is that like the groundwater where you couldn't include it on your income tax? How would that work?
I do not do taxes, I'm not sure.
I'm thinking it would be very similar, like right now we charge the refuge and recycling fee, and that it's on your tax bill as a separate fee, but it's not accounted for in your total tax. So the fee is not part of, it's not a tax, it's a separate line item. So it would not be reflective in the total tax, likely, not an accountant, but that you would be submitting as part of.
Are you saying it's not tax? You can't put it on your income as a tax?
It is not a tax, it is a
Okay,
fee.
so that's my question. Instead of a fire fee, I know it's gonna cost more money. Wouldn't it be better to put it on the tax roll and then it can be tax deductible?
So our only means of doing that is the way that we do now through the levy, and what we are constrained by is that number can't grow by more than 0% or our net new construction. And that was this piece with that Jessica shared with the budget. So the increase that we can get through 0% or net new construction is less than even the increase would be.
I forgot about that the state only allows you to raise. So, all right, thank you.
Come on up.
Hello, Wesley Lammer. I'm 4903 Chadwick Street. I have a question for you guys though. What are your what is the district's priorities the next coming years, and how will this fee help you guys out? It's a two question. If this fee doesn't pass, what are the repercussions for the department?
So I guess to answer your first question, as far as priorities, again, the biggest thing is to try to get our staffing up to where it needs to be for a department of our size and run volume. So that's basically what the fire fee is for, is to try to get us kind of where we really need to be. And then number two, what's going to happen? That's a tough question. I mean, my 2026 budget isn't done yet. I'm working on it, but it's not done yet. Again, like I said, I have some rough numbers in place. There's some unpredictable ones that I'm still waiting to get numbers back on. But I expect a $100,000 to $150,000 budget increase if we stay on the path that we're on. And like Jessica said earlier, the village doesn't have the money to fund us and to fund Mountain Bay and the other departments. So there would have to be cuts somewhere. That is the only option. And like I said earlier, the only cuts that we can make are staffing. There isn't any fluff anywhere else. I mean, you can take our janitorial costs down by $300 and we can try to buy cheaper soap and things like that, but there's nothing in my budget that I can make any cuts that are of any substance that's going to be thousands or tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. More specifically, what is the money going toward? We talked about staffing a lot. Right now, we staff 1 fire truck in Weston with 2 people. With the grant and a fire fee, we'll be able to staff an engine in Rib Mountain with 3 people and an engine in Weston with 3 people. So we will increase that staffing. We'll have 2 engines staffed with 3 people on each engine. So we'll have 6 people going to fires with the remaining people on EMS calls.
Anyone else?
I have a couple of questions. Most of them are kind of clarifying.
Just name and address.
Mara Mercantile at 7101 Critic Street. So you said that the ISO rate was kind of directly affected insurance. How often is an ISO rate adjusted?
So the fire department or the ISO will come into our fire department about every 4 to 5 years, or if we have a significant change, we can request a review.
So is it likely that after you have your additional staffing coming on, that request would happen?
Yes.
Okay, great. You said that the difference in payments comes on square footage. Is there also a zoning with that as well? Or does it not matter, you know, if you have an apartment that's the same size as a home based on quantity of people? Does that make a difference at all?
Right now we're strictly looking at square footage. Outbuildings will be an additional $15. We also have a $15 if you have no structure on your land, you'll get a bill for $15 just for your property. That's about it. It's going to be a sliding scale right now. One of our largest companies right now is over 800,000 square foot. So we had to kind of determine a sliding scale based on how big the structure was. So there is no difference in zoning.
Okay. And then you had mentioned problems with staffing before. So what happens to the grant money if you're not able to find the additional staff?
So you're saying if we get approved for the grant, the fire fee passes and we can't find staff?
Yes.
So 2 answers to that. Number 1, there is mechanisms within the grant. They allow us several months to recruit and hire people, and then we can ask for extensions if needed. That's number 1. We also began advertising a couple months ago to establish an eligibility list, which is very common for fire departments to do. And currently that sits at 14 people.
So we have 14 applicants right now for the 9 potential positions.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Just real quick to dovetail on her question, the square footage. What does that entail? A bird's eye square footage or a basement, all levels, what?
Above grade square footage.
Above grade, okay.
Which includes attached garages.
Okay.
But if you had 2 stories, it would be first and second.
But not basement.
But not basement.
Not even a finished basement.
Not even a finished basement.
Okay.
Come on up.
I just wanted to make a comment. Maybe I need to buy a hearing aid, but I can't hear almost a word you're saying. And I was interested in the square footage issue of how that's going to be determined, and you may have answered the question, but I didn't get it, so.
So I have the assessor record. So I have the above grade square footage for all the properties in the Village of Weston. I also have any additional outbuildings that would be on a property, the square footage of those. Right now, we're just looking at multiplying a rate times the above grade square footage, and that would be the fire fee. And if you have an outbuilding, it would be an additional $15.
So I can try to help my voice carries a little bit better. So, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Jamie or Jessica, but I think we're looking at was it 1.5 for residential? Do you remember?
I have two options right now and I haven't determined which one's the better
So
option.
we're looking at multiple options. Like I said, there's still a lot of moving pieces with this. So right now, one of the options is approximately 1.5 cents per square foot. Okay.
And that, I'm interested in the levels too, so someone that has basement, full basement, 2-story home.
Basements do not count.
Okay, but then the 2-story, say 1,000 foot on each level, and that would be.
That'd be 2,000 square feet.
It doesn't
Is there any
decrease the total
differential,
line.
which I think you answered
Right.
that,
Right.
between finished space and like a storage shed or something like that, is it still at the same rate?
So an attached garage would be at the same rate. A detached accessory structure, they're called, is a flat $15.
We're proposing 15.
Yes.
If it will be 15, that will be a decision ultimately by the Board of Trustees, but we're proposing 15. But
Thank you.
and there is the scale of that too would be like 0 through 3,000 square feet or 0 through 5,000 square feet, and then it will scale up from there. Yep.
Jim had his hand up.
Come on up, Jim.
Honestly, I got a couple. Jim Penson, 5002 Arrow Street. So first, thank you all for putting this together. I think this is good. I would say this is the first bi-directional communication that the board, and not being on the fire department, but that the fire department has ever had with residents. If you come to any meetings, whether it's a fire meeting, a parks meeting, this is only unidirectional communication that is permitted. So I can come here, I can say stuff. I don't get to ask questions. I don't get to get answers to those questions. I just get to say my thing and then I need to go sit in that chair right there and I'm the only guy here. So that brings me to my second thing. Every single one of you, thank you for coming here. This is the most cheeks and seats that has ever been in this building ever. So $15 million building, I don't know, do the math on this. It's a lot of dollars per seat in here, right? I mean, I think a bastard should be making a pile of money on this outfit.
If anyone would like a tour after, I would be happy to provide one. It's your building as residents of the village. We would be happy to give a tour if you haven't seen it.
All right. So I have a couple of questions here. So first I'll start with Jessica. I remember in the budget discussions last year, there was a shortfall to pay the bills for SAFER as it sat. And we had to use dollars from fund balance, is that correct?
So for the 2025 budget, because we had a budget surplus, we did take some of those budgeted funds from 2024 and we applied them to 2025. I believe it was $106 or $103.
Okay. But those dollars were used for the increase in health insurance and overall operational costs, right?
Yes.
Which we don't have likely in 25 to apply to 26.
Right. So at the start of the 2026 budget, we usually say we're starting at a minus $100,000 when we're looking to balance. One of the reasons that the board agreed to apply fund balance to the 25 budget is because we were looking at doing either a referendum or a fire fee for 2026. So that was the rationale. We normally don't use one-time funds for ongoing operations.
So the village board, so I'm a former board member, I resigned in April. The village board has, in the over 2 years that I served on the board, has had almost no communication from the SAFER board of directors, which Mark Maloney sits on, of the funding struggles going on that Chief Finke led to. I think he did a good job of saying, hey, Medicare only pays us X, like we're required to write off. We can't collect all 100%. The challenges in collecting revenue from ambulance calls or your income producing outfits. What are your thoughts on that? How are we, I see you've tried these other measures, but you haven't actually come to the board and said, hey, we as representatives of the SAFER oversight board or whatever you're called to the Village of Weston board, we're having problems paying the bills here. And we know that our revenues are not enough for our expenses, and this is what we're doing to fix it. Instead of, now here we sit, we need more money, so everyone open up your wallet, right? What do you have for that? What are your thoughts on that?
Your question?
Yes. Yeah, like why has the safer Board of Commissioners not come to the Village of Weston board and say, hey, we're having a hard time paying the bills, it's safer. So we're likely gonna have to come, we gotta do something. I don't ever recall that being in the minutes. I don't recall that being a thing, a recurring theme that when I sat at that table there, that was something I had to worry about.
So the finance director, Jessica, does a super job attending those meetings along with our administrator. And there's 2 representatives from this board, Trustee Cronin and myself. And then there's 2 trustees from Rib Mountain, Al Opal, Fred Schuster, but now it's Fred just resigned and another trustee is on there. Then we have a standing at large person, Keith Lanahan. He's with the town of Marathon. He's the outlying person that's on there. When he retires, we would probably put someone on from the town of Weston. That communication, I believe, is just an ongoing communication. I don't feel we've had real, I mean, you've insinuated that we've had monster problems here with that. In fact, when I first got on this board and then got on the Safer board with Wally Sparks, we were in the red, deeply in the red. Jessica, $600,000, I thought. And in the first 2 years, we ended up paying all that back from the Weston side, not Rib Mountain side. We've been in the black since, and we've actually been doing very well. And the ambulance bill, we took a pretty wild ride with a new ambulance collection agency, EMS collection agency that we're still arguing and fighting with. But I know you brought it up a lot, Jim, but it's just something that it's a moving target. We keep moving forward to it. It's certainly nothing that I've tried to hide or the Safer board of directors has tried to hide at all. Go ahead.
Just the follow-up piece of that is through the budget process. So as staff and within our packets for the board they're large. They're probably 200 to 300 pages. And that's because we're very transparent in providing as much information as possible through those board packets. And both Safer and Mountain Bay Metro provide a monthly information on what's happening at their meetings within that board packet. And then Jessica, as we present the budget in special meetings, I mean, public safety is one of the budgets that's covered. And I think in that budget session with public safety, those items are being brought up. And so maybe they are being more brought up from staff than the representatives, but as staff attending those meetings, I think that's where we're including that. And I understand it's a lot of information, but that's also why we're here. I mean, that's why we do sessions like this, but that's why you can also reach out to us at any point in time to just ask questions. Jessica would love to hear budget questions. She'd love to talk budget, even more than she does in the fall season. So.
Could I interject one thing there as well? The one thing I just want to make clear to the audience is that Safer doesn't have a money problem. Okay, our district, common governmental is that you have a fund balance of approximately 25 to 33% of your budget in the bank, just in case something goes haywire, right? We have a truck explode, we don't have money to fix it, we got to replace it. Whatever happens, we have a little piggy bank, right? And things go as long as things go bad. That balance for us has been hanging between 30 and 35%. So the district itself is operating very well. Like Mark said earlier, the last several years, our revenues have outpaced our expenses. So we've been able to put money away. Now, like Jessica said earlier, it's not common practice in government to use the piggy bank money for these continuing expenses like operations every year, right? Because the money will eventually dry up then, and then you're gonna really have a problem, okay? So I want the residents to know that the district itself financially right now is in a very good position. It's just that the Village of Weston, because of some of the constraints put on by the state and the levy limits, doesn't have money within the levy to give Safer the funding that it needs. And just not to get on a soapbox here, I know some of the other comments I've heard is that why won't Rib Mountain have to pay the fee? Rib Mountain's paying the same amount of money. They're just doing it through their levy because the Village of Rib Mountain happens to be in a position where they can raise their levy more than the Village of Weston can right now. So they have the ability to raise their taxes to bring that money in.
They have capacity. They're still at 0% or net new construction, but they haven't gone up to that level. They have capacity, but they may also explore it in the future too.
I want to clarify though, when Safer does have a budget surplus, what we do is we transfer that chunk of funds to capital.
Right.
So by doing that, we reduce our borrowing in the future and we can pay for those capital assets with cash instead of borrowing. There is a limit where the fund balance you don't want to collect anymore. So we have gotten the board at Safer to agree to transfer those funds to capital to reduce future borrowing.
In tax increment District 1, what's the revenue there annually that's not incorporated to the general tax levy for the rest of the municipality?
So,
I guess where I'm going with this question is, there's a pile of money there, right? Like millions of dollars?
So in TIF District number 1, last year we collected approximately $7 million. Next year in 2026, we're looking at only 3.9 million. The state of Wisconsin went through and knocked down all our TIFs. They determined that the values in our TIF were overstated. This is nothing that the village did wrong. This is all the state backtracking all their past increases to our land values in Wisconsin. They have now backtracked. So they reduced our TIF district number 1 by $72 million. And our TIF district number 2, I think it was by 46 million. TIF district number 2 will not be taking in any funds this year. We will have no increment for TIF district number 2. And then, like I said, TIF district number 1 will be approximately 4 million.
So could any of the properties be removed from TIF District 1 in order to utilize those dollars to offset these costs here that we're asking for the fire tax?
So at this point with TIF District number 1, when we were collecting our approximately $7 million, our plan was to actually close it next year. We have like $11 million in debt yet though. With that decrease down to 4, I believe we may have to extend it 1 more year. We will still be closing it early. We are able to keep that TIF open to 2031. But with that decrease now, we're still looking at closing it early in probably 2028. With that closure, we're looking to increase our tax levy so the state would allow us to recapture some of that value and increase the amount of our levy approximately $400,000. Yes, that's about what we need. But at this point with the Weston Avenue project that's continuing to go on, we still have quite a few bills to pay in that area. And we also have, like I said, $11 million in debt yet. So in the next 2-3 years, we plan on closing it. You're gonna see a large amount that the village will be able to increase our levy. And no, you will not see a large increase in your tax rate. You're looking at approximately probably 60-70 cent up to $1 decrease in your tax rate. Our goal is to close the TIF, make our residents not have to pay this additional increment, and see some relief. I know it's been talked about a couple years ago, but we are on track to close it.
Okay, so back to my original question, there hasn't been a single mention of removing properties though to lessen that. So maybe not close it completely, but can we peel half? Can we peel a third out and then you still continue to have it and that frees up enough dollars so you don't hit everybody in the room for another $100 bill?
Well, right now we really need
$50 bill, $40 to $50 bill. Wasn't 100. I mean, just so.
Else here own a business?
No, yeah, and that's fine, Jim, but that's what we heard tonight. So just to say.
More than one home in Weston.
Yeah.
Well, there may be someone sitting here that owns more than one home in Weston.
Sure,
So
you're right.
You
Maybe.
hit with a $50 bill twice and that used to be a $100 bill.
Yeah, maybe. Go ahead, Jim.
So again, any response to that of there's been no talk of, hey, can we peel some property out of TIF 1 in order to fund this?
With the deduction though, with the reduction in increment because of the change in the assessed values, at this moment, we would need to, in order to cover the debt for the projects that we've done within TIF 1. So it wouldn't be enough with that reduction to the $3 million. So our goal is to get that TIF closed It wouldn't close likely this next year. We'll wait till we finalize the expenses with the Weston Avenue project, but then we want it closed also in whole. Your goal is our goal on that also. We just need a little time to get there.
Sure. So I'm gonna start this next part by saying I'm in full support of the fire department. I want you to have nine more guys. I absolutely understand the struggle that you have with not enough people there, burnout, and not having the tools, resources, and personnel on staff to perform as effectively, efficiently, and successfully as you can. But what happens if this doesn't pass? If this next week or 2 weeks from now, if it goes to the board, and our board says, nah, we're not doing fire tax, can't do it, then what? What does that look like for your department?
So then we have to make difficult decisions. And like I said earlier, I have nowhere else to cut in my budget other than staff.
My personal thoughts are they should be based on assessed value, not square footage. I get it. When your fire truck shows up to the 10,000 square foot house versus the 1,000 square foot trailer, like it takes more to fight that fire. But the guy with the 10,000 square foot house probably can't afford the additional dollars. And if you look at the formula and how it is, I just feel like it would be way easier, way more fair for everyone throughout the village. And then is there a cap or limit to the fire tax? So everyone sitting here probably may or may not have a vehicle that's registered in Marathon County. You're familiar with the $25 temporary wheel tax that is still here, but my goodness, we're literally on a county road. And it's not a great road from here to Highway 29, right? So what did that $25 get us? And it didn't go down, it didn't go away, it's still temporary, but we didn't see any improvement. I'm not saying that these dollars won't see an improvement, but is there a cap or a limit? Will it ever go away? Like, a reasonable individual would assume that operational costs will increase next year. Operational costs will increase the year after. Healthcare will go up. It's going to cost more for your meal at Culver's. It's simple Bidenomics, right? But what, like, is there a cap? Okay, so it's $50 this year, it's $60 next year, and then when the additional fees drop off, is it 160? Is it 260? What does that look like?
I guess I can try to answer that the best I can. Is number one, it's really hard for me to forecast what's going to happen 10 years from now. I mean, there might be, I have no idea what's going to happen with the economy 10 years from now. So it's hard to say, what the net new construction is going to be here in the village of Weston, and if the housing market falls off the cliff, and do we have an influx of residents, and now we have more ambulance calls that brings in more revenue. Maybe there's a funding change in the EMS billing structure, and we bring in more money. So could it go up? Yes. Could it go down? Yes. I don't want to paint myself in the corner and the residents say, well, the fire chief said that in 5 years it'll do this, because I have no idea. And backing up a little bit, is there a cap? No, there's not. Is it going to eventually be some massive number? Again, in my time, I can promise you that won't happen, because obviously there's very few people in the room that know me, but that's not how I operate. I try to operate as inexpensively as we possibly can, which I think I demonstrated on our cost before, that we are by far the cheapest fire department around. So I don't think that'll happen. That's what I'm trying to get at.
I'm gonna add to that. The people who are voting for this are the people that are sitting at the village board. So if there is a bad year and the village board does something that you don't want, the people can elect them not to represent them anymore. So that's the control. Yes, I know you're gonna add that we have a lot of appointments this year, but in the future, I don't anticipate the number of appointments that are gonna be there, and the population, the village residents have a right to vote who's representing you. And if the people that they vote for vote to not have a fire fee or increase the fire fee, that fee's not moving. It's nothing that staff has control over. Even the chief, he does not have control over that fire fee. It's the village board.
Same thing with the enthusiasm of everyone that's here. We'd love for lots of people to take out papers in December. We will help you through the whole process. just come on in and see our clerk.
So finally, I really respect everyone that's in this room and thank you all for your time, for coming in this evening, and asking these questions, getting some information here. But I think this board would be doing a disservice to all of us and the rest of the 16,000 people if you didn't let us make the decision, if you decided for us and made this fire. It should be on the ballot, it should be a referendum question, and this should be a decision by 16,000 people, not 6 for which are appointed.
Can I make one comment to that real quick?
Please.
Just so everybody is aware, if that's the case, because a referendum cannot be held until spring, we would have to forfeit any grant funding. That means that a couple $1 million in grant money would be lost. Although I totally understand your point, I do. I just want to make that clear.
Isn't it that if you're gonna get a raise of $50, say next year?
Do you want to just, since she came up to the podium and then you could come up to the podium afterwards?
Would that be $500 in 10 years?
I would say that is incredibly unlikely. I won't be here in 10 years, so I can't promise you that, but I would say that's unbelievably unlikely. Will there be increases? Yes, but for it to go up that high, I do not see that happening.
I'm Cindy Russell, and I live at 5907 Tricia Avenue. I just want to clarify that this fire fee will be applied to commercial as well as residentials. Now, will the businesses in the TIF districts, are they exempt from it, or will they be paying it as well?
They would pay it as well.
Okay.
Well, along with nonprofit.
Along with nonprofits.
Schools and churches.
And the municipal buildings.
Yep.
Okay. In 2025, the adopted budget had $919,000 in the Fund 20, which is a grant fund. Where did that money go? That $919,000 that was in there from grants? Where was that applied?
The village used their ARPA funds to fund some street projects. The intent of the village board was to use those funds for Kennedy Park, but with the delay of a signed contract, we needed to use those grant funds, and spending it on streets was an approved way to spend those. So we used our ARPA funds and we spent them on streets.
ARPA is for American Rescue Plan Act. Those were the funds that were released from the federal government to municipalities through COVID relief.
Okay, so I'm looking at this 6/30/25. It says the total funds to be used for Kennedy includes tourism, and you have 1.2 million budgeted for that. Where is that money coming from for the Kennedy Park?
So originally, we were planning on using ARPA funds for Kennedy Park. Because we couldn't get a signed contract, we had to do a switcheroo. So we borrowed funds for road projects, and those funds are going to be used for Kennedy Park.
In addition to donations from the Friends group, and then tourism dollars.
So you're saying that you borrowed money for the Kennedy Park?
Nope, the intention when we borrowed was for streets.
Right, and ARPA funds went towards paying off those borrowed funds, correct?
Nope, the ARPA funds were used to pay for the streets.
I think what they're trying to say is that ARPA funds had a deadline of when they needed to be spent. And since that deadline could not be met by a signed contract for Kennedy Park, they used the ARPA funds to do road projects, which they had intended on borrowing for.
Okay.
But instead they borrowed money for Kennedy Park because there's no deadline on when that money could be spent. Where with the ARPA funds, there was a deadline by the federal government of when they had to be spent.
The money was already borrowed. It was.
And ARPA funds could not be used to pay down debt. In the infinite wisdom of our federal government, you couldn't use ARPA funds to pay down debt. You had to actually spend the money, which was pretty messy.
Okay, but nobody's really answering the question is where the total funds that are available for Kennedy Park is coming from. Where are those funds coming from?
It's a mixture of capital funds tourism dollars, and donated funds.
Capital funds. That comes out of the city budget.
Capital funds are usually a part of the borrow budget, which is what?
Okay, so we're borrowing money for Kennedy Park.
We had already borrowed the money. The money was already.
Kennedy Park. But why was it important to start a new construction project? We have a problem with SAFER right now as far as funding SAFER. Can anybody justify starting Kennedy Park construction over providing services for our residents that you are given the responsibilities to provide these services to the village residents? And we're using it on a capital construction project at this time.
No, that's, you hit the button with your back. Yep. We're not done. Don't worry.
Just Kennedy Park will not be bringing in any revenue. So how can you justify starting a $1.2 million construction project, when we have a problem with providing services to our residents?
Good question.
So the Village of Weston can borrow funds. We can borrow funds for anything non-operating. Non-operating, meaning we can't borrow for wages. We can't borrow for health benefits. So when you want to hire some new people, we can't borrow for it.
You're not gonna pay back. You gotta make payments on it.
I explained to you why we can build
Just one thing. I appreciate we all have comments, but just thank you.
I was trying to explain why I can build Kennedy Park, but I can't hire firefighters. The state statute allows me to borrow for operations, not borrow for operations, but borrow for capital projects. So if I want to build a park that lasts for 10 years, I can borrow for it. If I want to hire a firefighter that I need to pay for the next 20 years, I can't borrow for it.
You're paying interest of that money.
That's the way that this works for borrowing.
We're paying on borrowed funds. We have a problem with providing services.
But the state will not allow me to borrow for operations.
Well, ARPA funds can be used to hire people as well. We've had a problem with EMS. In 2023, we had contracted services that were 81,000 was used. In 2024, 26,000 was used for contracted services. And really ARPA funds is to hire additional people.
Actually, that's a really bad use for ARPA funds. You want to know why? Because you are supplementing operations. So say you use the $600,000 to hire the firefighters, where are you going to get that $600,000 next year to keep those firefighters hired? So you're going to use the one-time funding, $600,000, to hire these firefighters. Where are you going to get it next year? How are you going to pay for them next year?
Again, appreciate and hear the point. I think another piece of that is that it takes a lot of pieces to run a municipality, right? We all moved here for different reasons. We all stay here for different reasons. Some families stay here because of the other amenities that we provide, parks, opportunities, things to do within the community. So yes, it takes fire, it takes police, but it also takes things to attract families. One of the biggest conversations within the school district is they would love to have more families here and more families a part of the school district. They don't have any place for those people to live that move here, to come to stay. So to make this their community. So I hear your point, but as a municipality, we have to take all of those things into consideration to keep our residents safe, to keep them engaged and happy with the services and amenities we provide.
Well, like it's been stated in previous meetings, the TIF districts takes a lot of money away from our general funds that would pay for having services given to the residents that pay it. It seems like whenever there's a crisis, well, let's just go back to the residents and we'll charge this fee or raise utility rates or whatever it is. And I understand that, every year costs are rising, but also we've done very little to close out the TIFs.
We are working towards the closure of those TIFs, and as Jessica said, TIF 1 will close early. It was scheduled to close in 2031. We are looking potentially at 2028 at this moment, but.
Oh, it was initially scheduled to close in 2021. You're correct.
2031.
No, 2021 before we
They
had.
got an extension of 10
Yeah,
years.
there was an
because-
extension.
Because they
Yep.
were so
You're
far in debt and they had made so many, boo-boos as far as, giving grants and, this Camp Phillips Road out here where they started development and they didn't even get approval from the DNR. So, I mean, there's been a lot of mistakes done by this village, and Mark can probably contest to that, you know, just poor management. And I think a lot of residents feel that because, you know, they have their own idea. They want to have this big, beautiful community, just like with putting Schofield Avenue. We're going to change the name of Schofield Avenue to Everest Avenue, and we got to beautify this and beautify that, all at the cost of the taxpayers. So I think the village needs to probably tighten their belts a little bit and think about what they're doing for the residents as far as providing services to them.
You got some good points here, Cindy, and the Camp Phillips fiasco is why I ran. Because it was a previous administrator that I did not agree with a lot of different things. He actually imposed a $5 a month, $60 a year cable fee. And I asked him to his face, why are you doing that? He says, because I can. It was legal to do it, so it's $60 of my money for having cable. So everybody in this village pays $60 a year for cable, you know, because he can. And he's not here anymore. The whole thing with Camp Phillips, that was a fiasco, that's gone. I agree with some of that stuff, but it's not current staff. It's not current administration.
Same way when TDS came in.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know, that was all aboard too. We gotta have TDS services, and you put all the
TDS.
put the other businesses out of, you know,
No,
their revenue.
it did not. TDS brought in no contracts. So no contracts. We got hammered by Spectrum Charter for allowing TDS to come in. We basically broke up their monopoly. And now I bet nobody has contracts. You can come and go on your contract with cable. I thought that was a huge win that we had some competition in here against Spectrum and Charter. So that's how I viewed it. And Spectrum is, you know, countrywide. TDS is regional out of Madison. So I thought that was a really smart idea. And they came to us, you know, from Stevens Point, I believe, Mosinee to us. They didn't even go north of us yet.
How much money did we give TDS to come in here?
$250,000.
$250,000.
Yep.
Can I just speak? Yes. I appreciate everything that you're saying. That's part of why I decided to run, I guess, interview for the board. I would love to make sure that we can hear from everybody in this room and the people that are online and keep it pertinent to why we're here. Everybody can say what they want at that table. I have no problem with that. Absolutely feel free to email us, call us. All of our contact information is on the website. Come to our board meetings, speak at public comment before the meeting, share your concerns. I want to hear it. We all do, I believe. But if we can try to limit it to this fire conversation tonight, because otherwise we could certainly talk all night about mistakes from the past, and I understand that.
But I'm just saying.
Yep, no, and I appreciate it.
The general consensus is that anytime, you know, you guys run into problems, well, let's just go back to the taxpayer and get more money.
I respect that.
At some point.
Thank you very much.
Are there anybody else that's here in the room? Yep, you wanna come on up, Grace?
I have a couple of questions and I have a couple of comments. My name is Grace Polonic, 6003 Jessica Street, unit number 3. The other day, I have cameras outside my house because I've had problems with the neighbors and a whole bunch of other stuff. Interestingly, while I was gone, my brother told me, he's a truck driver, lives with me. Gee, we had lots of fun out front.
Lots of what? Lots of what?
Lots of fun out front.
Oh, okay.
I have a neighbor guy across the road, he's handicapped. I'm going to assume the man fell, is what I'm gonna think. So I pull up my ring camera, lo and behold, I got 4 squads. I got an ambulance. I got a fire truck. I have a pickup truck, which is a paramedic intercept. I know that because a couple years ago, I actually got charged 2 ambulance bills for an ambulance that came to my house. And just in case anybody doesn't know it, if they show up at your house and the ambulance doesn't have a paramedic on it, they send a pickup truck with a paramedic on it. And when that little pickup truck shows up, you get 2 ambulance calls. You don't even get one. And I only live a mile from the hospital in the crow flies. You don't want to know what that ambulance call costs. So anyway, they showed up. And another emergency truck for one man who fell out of a wheelchair. Because they didn't stay, they didn't transport. How many fire calls was that for your records? 1. But just a minute ago, you gave an example of how many people are out here and how many people are out there, and I understand that. But apparently on Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, we can send the whole fire department over to pick up one man from a wheelchair.
Well, first of all, your neighbor suffered cardiac arrest. And he is alive because of our crew's efforts. So let's straighten that out first of all.
They didn't transport it that I saw.
Well, I can assure you that they did. Number 2, we do not send a paramedic in a truck and send 2 bills. That absolutely never happens from our fire department. That may have happened with Weston Fire Department over a decade ago. I can assure you that doesn't happen. You bring me those records and I will write you a personal check for that because I know that does not happen.
Absolutely. I absolutely got double billed and I had to call to find out why.
If you want to bring me those bills, I will make sure you get refunded for that second bill. I'm off tomorrow, but I'll be in the office on Friday. And we send an ambulance with usually 2 providers on it because that's all we have. A lot of fire departments are on 3. We don't have the staffing to run 3. So when certain calls come in, like this particular call, because of the nature of the call, we send a rescue truck with, okay? That is the truck that DC Lang talked about earlier. That is our only fire apparatus for the community. So we send them in that big truck because if they need to break free and respond to a fire or a motor vehicle crash or any other calls they go to, they have the vehicle and the equipment that they need. So I can fully understand where the public sees that as why are they driving this giant truck around? It's because that crew that's in that truck has to be able to respond to a multitude of different calls throughout their shift, whether it's an ambulance call or a extrication of a victim from a vehicle or a house fire or whatever it may be. They have to respond to many different calls. The person in the pickup truck, because of the severity of the call, is our supervisor for the day. That's our battalion chief. So because of the severity of that call, he responded as well.
Okay, that answers that question.
Just to clarify, he was transported then?
Yes.
Okay. He did not just fall, he was transported for a cardiac arrest.
He did fall, but he fell because of cardiac arrest.
I never saw the ambulance back in, and normally an ambulance backs in and they stabilize. As fast as that ambulance came and left, we need to leave. He wasn't transported because I've seen that individual transport more than once and that ambulance backed in. This ambulance did not back in and I did not see him carrying to the road. You may be absolutely correct, but that's why my assumption was. My cameras are pretty clear. They said duplex pretty damn good. Next thing, your ISO rating. I would say that we probably do have a lower ISO rating. I will give you that. But I think what you were leading the people to believe here is that from $500 to $1,100, that increase in that insurance bill was strictly due to the fact that the ISO rating went up 1 or 2 points. And I think that's highly unlikely. When you look around the United States and the fires that are burning out west, and the hurricanes that are down south, and the floods in Texas, and everything that's going on in the northeastern part of the United States, and probably some of the crap that's going on in Wisconsin now because there's flash floods, I highly doubt that the ISO rating took that insurance claim up $600. So if you're thinking that a $600 offset to a $50 fee, I think you kind of misrepresented that. May have been not your intention, but that's exactly how the people in this room probably would have read it. I would maybe attribute another $100 to $200 to your ISO rating, but I'm not sure that it would be much more than that. So that's my opinion, and that's strictly my opinion. Now we want to do a sliding fee scale on the footage. I get that, but I also heard here tonight that you were told by the state of Wisconsin to lower the business ratings, and I hear that Target got a much lower rating on their taxes. So they got their taxes totally decreased, and then they didn't have to pay personal property tax. But then you want to stand here and tell me and some of these other people when their taxes went up 200, 300, $400, that we should give them a break and we should let them slide because their building is bigger than ours.
That is not at all what we said.
Okay, well then I missed something there. But if that's the case, I would actually, if we're gonna charge by the square foot or we're gonna charge by the value, I would ask that whether you're a business and you're large, or even if you're the municipality, that everything is square across the board. That if we're gonna pay, we're all gonna pay in the same way, in the same fashion. Because if we had to absorb Target before, why should we absorb Target again? Why?
Absorb them again, what?
Absorb them again, because if you're gonna do this sliding fee scale, that's exactly what we're doing. If somebody here owns a 1,000-foot house, a 2,000 square foot, or a 3,000 square foot, I don't know how many square feet Target is, or how many homes we can put in there. But if theirs, say, is 50 cents on the dollar and mine is $1, why am I paying for Target? Or why am I paying for whatever this building is here? Ultimately, I am, because this is all gonna be on the tax roll. Ultimately, we're all gonna pay for every church or every school or whatever else, because you're gonna impose that fire fee. So it doesn't matter what you do to them, because ultimately, everyone in this room is gonna be paying for that fee. It's just gonna go on our tax rolls somehow. Or it's gonna go to whatever they collect. But the schools and all that, that's going on our tax roll. So it doesn't matter that you're charging them. It's coming back to me anyway. It doesn't matter, it's coming back to me. And that's just the way I feel about it. I have nothing against your 9 firefighters. I'm absolutely glad that we have a firefighting team. I'm absolutely glad. I'm just sorry that it got to this point because of the way we have done things here in the village of Weston. And I really think it's come down to a lot of things of the way people perceive things right now. I think it's come down to the fact that when I hear on a village trustee meeting that trustees get paid to make the hard decisions, that's why they were voted into office. But then we don't put referendums out there on things that we can put referendums out there. And maybe you don't have time on this one to put a referendum out there, but those that we do have time on, why didn't we do it? And this discussion took place back in January, from what I can tell by going back to the village meetings. I commend the lady before me. I really give her some credit. She did some homework. I've done a little bit of homework, but probably not just as much as her. And it's very eye-opening, extremely eye-opening to watch any meeting that goes on and listen to the stuff. What's even more eye-opening is the fact that you guys get 40 pages of a agenda. And when the public comes in, they get 2 pages of an agenda. And then they read that agenda and you put it up to the board. And frankly, when I'm sitting back there, I can't read those numbers. But I'll have to tell you, people, the wonderful thing is you pull out your little phone, you pop that agenda open and you start enlarging it. And you start looking at those numbers. And sometimes they're very, very, very eye-opening. Because not everything gets presented in a meeting. A lot of the discussions are happening outside the meeting.
Not true. Absolutely not true.
It's just the way it appears. You sit through a meeting and we're approving agenda 4, 5, 6, whatever. And everybody's going, okay, what are they approving? What are they doing? What did they do? You'd have to attend every meeting. You'd have to stay in track. And that means I would have to attend every committee meeting as well. You'd have to. As a resident, you'd have to. So what we do is we put our trust in you guys to do stuff that you're supposed to do when we vote you in, and we hope like hell that you're gonna do what we put you in there to do. But then some days we hear the things of, we don't have to ask the people. And although I approve of this building, and I approve of it 100%, your first biggest mistake was the fact that you did not put this building to a referendum. You created a sour taste in the mouth of a lot of people in the village of Weston. Because you set that precedent, and now you're moving forward with that precedent again. Should you have a referendum now? Probably not, because you're probably gonna lose that grant. Are you gonna come back with $50 to me this year? Probably. You can't predict it, but I'm gonna tell you what I think in 4 years from now, that $50 fee is gonna be $150 to $200, and I don't think there's any way to stop it. You can't predict it, but that's absolutely, I would bet you $100 bill right now, that's what's gonna happen. And then I wonder what happens when we move the fire fee and all of that off of the budget. And we're only gonna move that onto this fire fee. So now we've just moved, I don't know, what did we have, 120, 320, I don't know what we have, I don't know what that number is. So now we've just moved that and we've substituted over here with the fire fee. Because we're raising the money over here for the fire department. What's happening with this 130 here or this 330 or whatever that freaking number is? What are we doing with that budget money? Because that's now in the tax rolls. That ain't truly coming over here. Because now we're funding this by not taking from here. So now we have this surplus here. Is that what's going to happen? So those are the things I think about.
I apologize, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I think I mentioned we do have to take the levy adjustment. So we have to, if we take that piece off the levy and we do the fee, we have to decrease the levy. So we would decrease that levy based off of the formula through the state statute, and then the fee would be charged. There would be it would have to come off the levy.
So you cannot use that, you can't come back here and use that for something else.
We can't still charge that levy and apply it someplace else.
Okay, that, I will regret for that one, that I did not understand. And like I said, I commend our fire department. I absolutely do. There are things I don't understand. I'm just sorry that it got to the point where we have to come to the taxpayers now and have to literally put out a fire. Why these discussions didn't happen like at first of the year, when a referendum could have been put on the spring thing. And I'll have to tell you point blank, because you do read Next Door Neighbor and you know that I comment there. This is a dog and pony show. That's what this is, an absolute dog and pony show. You need the money. We know you need it. We know you're going to implement it. We know the board's going to vote for it. Just by listening to the last trustee meeting, there's no doubt in my mind this fee is going on there, because nobody's going to lose that grant and nobody's going to watch this. And just like you said, nobody cares if it's $50 when your house is burning to the ground. But that's not even the point. The point is you should be putting out fires long before they get to be huge fires, long before they get to this point. Those discussions should be happening long before this happens. And these kind of informative meetings should be happening long before we're at this point, so that the people have input. Because you were not voted here to make the tough decisions, Mark. I have news for you. You were voted here to represent the village of Weston, the people of Weston. There are 16,000 people in this village. Each person has a vote, the majority rules. So please get it straight. That you're not here to make this tough decisions. You're here to represent the best interest of the 16,000 people of the village of Wisconsin.
I agree.
Thank you for your time.
Anyone else in the room this evening? Okay, I don't see anyone else in the room. We have 13 people that are joining us online. Might just call by name just to see. If you don't have anything, I won't see you take yourself off of mute. Mary, did you have a question or a comment?
No, we did not. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt, question or a comment?
Yes, please. I appreciate the opportunity for being here. My name is Matthew Krems. I live at 3209 Tappy Drive in the village of Weston. I would like to just preface what I'm saying with my professional background. I retired about a year and a half ago from 28 years of public service, the vast majority of that being a firefighting career, working for a fire department in the northeast part of the state. Just for comparative sake, the community that I served there was approximately 70,000 residents. We had 6 stations with 8 apparatus staffed. At full staffing, we would have 32 firefighters per day plus 2 battalion chiefs for a staff of 34, or approximately 5 times what our village or what our safer response district is currently staffing on any given day. And we were only about 3 times as big. I will agree with a lot of what the citizens are saying tonight. I am growing increasingly frustrated with a lot of the spending that this village is doing and a lot of the excessive spending at that. However, this is one of those times where I'm genuinely concerned that we are woefully understaffed at Safer Fire and that we desperately need additional resources. I think very, very much so the fact that only 2 firefighters would be available to actually do interior firefighting operations at any given time is extremely concerning. And I can promise anybody in this audience that if it's your family and your loved ones that are trapped in modern day lightweight construction that burns significantly faster than some of the older residences and dwellings that we had 50, 75 years ago, you will wish that you had additional fire personnel there in a much, much shorter amount of time. And not to mention the 2 firefighters that would be available for firefighting operations doesn't begin to cover the ventilation, which is removing the smoke and the heat that could potentially kill your loved one while they're trapped in a building and make it safer for firefighters to work in. I guess my question is to Chief Finke, can I just confirm with you that if our ISO rating was to improve, that it would improve at least in the worst case scenario, my insurance, my property insurance would probably go down $50 per year, correct?
I'm not an insurance agent, but I would say that's a fairly safe assumption. The individual that stopped at our station yesterday, again, lived outside of a hydranted area. So that changes it. And again, his rating went from a 4 to an 8 because he's outside of that hydranted area. And he stated that his bill went from $500 and some dollars to $1,100 and some dollars. I actually asked him, and I believe it was his son that was with him. I asked him if they could be here tonight, but they did not want to attend.
So I guess in my opinion, and this is only my opinion, but again, it's from a professional background, I would much rather be giving $50 to the village every year under the pretense that I'm creating better staffing and better response from my fire and EMS agency that protects me and my family than to give it to my insurance company, which I think a lot of us can agree our insurance companies certainly do get quite a bit of money every year from us as it is. My question, I guess my other question to you, Chief Finke, is what would your ideal staffing be on any given day if we just had an endless budget? I guess my perspective of it is I would like to see the board of directors for SAFER start looking at a 10 to 15 year plan where we are always staffing 2 frontline ambulances and then cross-staffing an engine and then your ladder truck at Station 1 and an engine in your heavy rescue at Station 2 with 4 firefighters each at a minimum, meaning that 12 firefighters would be staffed on any given day as a minimum staffing level. But I'd like to ask you what you think your ideal staffing would be for a community this size.
Yeah, I mean, we've looked at that and our ideal staffing is 14. So 14 total staff between fire and EMS.
That's all I have. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy? Okay.
Yes, I'm actually here. I do have one question. I come from a family who are paramedics and are firefighters back from the 90s to recently last year. My question is, since we have such a deficit in the fire department regarding firefighters, why don't we go back to old school and ask for volunteers?
I covered that earlier in the presentation. We tried that over the past several months. We have 1.
Mm-hmm. Well, 1 is better than 0, but I'm just saying that, you know, because I have never, living in Weston, I have never heard that, you know, Weston is looking for volunteer firefighters, excuse me. I have not heard of that, and I'm on social media and I watch the news and I have not come across any of that.
Yeah, it was put out on the news. It was put out on the SAFER Fire Department social media page several times. It was put on the village, both villages that we cover was put on their social media several times. I spoke about it with local media. It was advertised pretty heavily. And like I said earlier, we had 11 applicants. And we were even paying these individuals. We were going to pay them per call. We had 11 applicants. And by the time we got through the physical exam, the psychological exam, and then into the training portion of it, we unfortunately are down to the 1 person that, like I said, is actually a Village of Weston board member that just wants to help.
So you're talking about the part-time firefighters that you were offering compensation for. I'm talking about volunteer firefighters that show up when there's a fire.
That's basically what these were.
Can offer 3, 4.
That's what these were. They were going to be issued pagers. They were going to train with us once a month. and they would respond when the pager went off for fires, but they would be paid when they came in.
Essentially paid per call.
Correct.
And I think there are very, very few totally volunteer departments left in the state of Wisconsin. That most departments have gone to essentially a per diem of a pay per call if they're still operating that method.
Yeah, we have part-time staff who are required to work shifts every month. They're required to give us availability as part of their responsibilities. These 11, they strictly, like the chief said, we're going to carry pagers and just respond to fires off duty. Of the 11, we ended up with 1, which doesn't help our staffing model. It doesn't help our ISO rating. It doesn't help us meet NFPA standards. We need much more than 1 additional person.
Okay.
Thank you, Amy. Did you have more questions?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Landon?
No questions.
Thank you, Landon. Mr. Mullen? Okay. Zachary?
Hi, yeah, I had entered a question into chat. Just a question about the grant itself. Chief Finke had said that it was multi-million dollars that we'd be leaving, on the table if we didn't take advantage of that. But the shortfall was a couple $100,000. What would be the difference there? And then I think I'd heard somewhere that you had to do the fire fee to basically prove to get the grant that you could fund the fire department. Is that true?
So a couple questions there. The grant monies that we would receive over that 3-year period is just shy of $1.7 million. When I say we, I mean the villages that we protect are responsible for paying 35% of that grant in the first 2 years, 65 the third year, and then 100 after that. In order for the village of Weston to pay for their portion of that, the fire fee would be required. That would be their only ability for a funding mechanism.
And the board has the option if the board decides they want to shift some more stuff around. But when you look at the numbers and what are you cutting? That 5, we'd have to cut was it 4 people? 4 people would be about $400,000. And then what are you doing the following year? Because that would be a one-time saving. So it would, it's not the only way. I guess I don't want to say, oh, yep, the village can't do it, but it would be a tough decision for the board moving forward. How are they going to do it? Where is the funds going to come from? We have fund balance. We could spend that down next time we go to borrow, or our rating's not going to be so great and we'd be paying a higher interest rate. But that's all the decisions that the board needs to look at, all the things the board needs to look at.
And if we would drop below what our contingency fee is or what we keep in savings and something happens, then how do we pay for it? I mean,
we can do it for a couple of years and it's not sustainable.
Yep, not sustainable. Did we answer your question, Zach?
Yeah, yep. And I just wanted to say thank you to Chief Finke there, putting together a great presentation on comparing the cost of our municipality versus the other local municipalities. It's nice to see that you guys are running it so efficiently and so cheaply that compared to other places nearby. And that's nice to help me at least understand why we need to do the fire fee, because you already are, running it as bare bones or as efficiently as possible, but we don't want to make it so, like Matt had said earlier, that you're so understaffed you can't provide the services that we need for Village of Weston and Rib Mountain. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Ben? Okay, and then we also have a phone number ending in 1718. Okay. Neither one came off of mute. Just going to ask one more time. Is there anyone else that's joining us on Zoom that had a question or wanted to make a comment that hasn't already been called on? Okay, and just one last time in the room. Anybody that has a question or a comment? Okay, so thank you. We appreciate everyone being here this evening. If something comes up after this, you had another question or you wanted to share another comment, please feel free. All of the village business cards are out there on the rack. You can grab my card. You can grab any of the trustees' cards. I think us as staff and Safer will be here for a little while yet. Feel free to come up and talk to us personally too. But we just really appreciate that you're here. I often say that the government closest to you affects your life the most. So we're just really happy that you wanted to be here tonight and listen to everything that we had and that you shared your feedback with us. Thank you.
I also want to plug our 2026 budgets coming up. The most important things for like the village residents, you talked about the way we're spending money. A lot of what we spend, those big decisions that we like talking about, are our capital plans. That's where we can charge. I don't know if you remember on that slide I showed, we had an increase of $250,000 for debt. That was debt service. We are allowed to raise that for that. We can't raise it for operations, but having you here and voicing your opinion of what we should and should not be doing if we have too much service in one area, if you're seeing, that's when we need to come. That's when those board members are making decisions. There is a place for you to speak up. And if you have questions, you can definitely call me. I like talking budget. I have been doing this for way too long. I know a lot of the ins and the outs and the restrictions the state puts on, and I'm always open to exploring different ideas. Do you have an idea to raise money or a place we need to cut? Come talk to me. We'll talk through the books. I got lots of information to show you. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.